Hi everyone, welcome back to a new chapter by chapter for Christmas Cowbells, which is the first novel in the Buttermilk Creek Mystery series by Mollie Cox Bryan. Chapter by chapter is my audio reading vlog for the Book One Cozies Club, or first in a series Cozy Mystery Book Club, which I run in the Mystery Madness Goodreads group. Link to that is down in the description box below in case you are interested. There is a chatter thread up for each selection there in case you would like to chat with people on Goodreads in that forum instead. So if you haven't listened to my first chapter by chapter for Buried in a Book, which was November's Book One Cozies Club selection, chapter by chapter is my audio only reading vlogs for the selection of the month. I break down the book into sections and then I give you my live thoughts about the book as I read them. So if you haven't read the chapters that are listed in the title of each video, I would suggest that you not listen to the recording until you have. If you would prefer to hear my general thoughts on the book in its entirety, then I will be doing a Book One Cozies Club series First Impressions video after I have completed the reading vlogs for this book. Since this is the start of a new selection, I will go ahead and read the summary that's listed on the back of the book in case you might be interested in joining us. So it says, the first novel in Mollie Cox Bryan's brand new mystery series set in the Blue Ridge Mountains will keep you guessing until the cows come home. Christmas is a time for new beginnings, so after her big breakup, Bryn McAllister takes the Gouda with the bad. With her 3 red Devon cows, she settles in bucolic Shenandoah Springs, eager for a new life as an organic micro-dairy farmer and cheesemaker. Then her dear cow Petunia's bellows set the whole town on edge. But it isn't until Bryn's neighbor Nancy dies in a mysterious fire that her feelings about small-town life begin to curdle. It seems some folks were not happy with Nancy's plan to renovate the old glebe church, but it is a fear of change motivation for murder. As a newcomer, Bryn can't ignore the strange events happening just on the other side of her frosty pasture, and soon on her very own farm. Suddenly, Christmas doesn't feel so festive as everyone demands she muzzle sweet Petunia, and Bryn is wondering if someone wants to silence her for good. At the bottom, it also says includes moveless recipes. So I'm looking forward to seeing some recipes in this one. This book is a little over 300 pages, I believe. So the novel portion of this book is about 303 pages. There are 54 chapters. So obviously the chapters are rather short in this one. So I am thinking that we will go ahead and break this book down into 6 chapter sections. So there will be 9 reading vlogs for this book. After the main novel, there are recipes, and then there is a sampler for another series Mollie Cox Bryan does, which is the Core Crafts Mystery series. So that definitely sounds like something I'd be interested in because I do enjoy my crafting. But anyway, that is neither here nor there because we are talking about Christmas cowbells. So I am excited to get started with this one. I am going to jump into chapter 1 right now, and I will be back with you in a bit. So right off the bat, I noticed that there is a cast of characters, which is very interesting because it's not something that I see a lot in the cozies that I read. And then when you flip the page, there is a cast of cows. So we actually get the names of her cows, a little bit about their personalities. So that's interesting. And then as you read the acknowledgments, I don't know how many of you do, but I do. And she makes mention that she learned how to make cheese from Luella, which coincidentally was a character in Buried in a Book, which is the book we read last month. I don't believe I've ever heard the name Luella in real life. So having that name in books that I've read recently is very interesting. So I'm actually going to jump into chapter 1 right now, and I will be back with you in a bit. So I just finished chapter 3, and things have moved rather quickly. We pretty much got everything that was on the back of the cover so far. So right off the bat, we find out that her fiance has cheated on her, which, not surprising at all. We often see that either husbands or boyfriends cheat on our amateur sleuths, which cause them to veer off into their new life path. I don't think it says how long ago they broke up, but it still seems like it was rather recent, considering she's mentioned him quite a bit. And I don't know if that's just to let us know how she got interested in cheese making and having a farm and raising the cows and all of that. I do feel like she talks about him a lot, though. We are still very early in the book, only 20 pages in, so I would think that mentions of him will go by the wayside in a bit. We are definitely meeting a whole bunch of the people in town. There is one really obvious person that I'm presuming the author wants us to suspect, which is Tom, the cranky guy from the fire hall and the town meeting. I don't really have very many thoughts about him, other than he's obviously upset at what's being done, but it will remain to be seen if he turns out to be a more suspicious character of the blaze. I did find it strange that the EMT who was talking to her after she woke up in the ambulance from fainting at the scene of the blaze had said something about they were transporting Nancy to Augusta Medical. Weirdly enough, I don't understand what that means. Like, is that not the normal hospital that they'd take somebody in an emergency? I feel like the author may be trying to tell us something that maybe only residents of people in this area would know about. I don't know. I just found that statement to be weird. Obviously, from the summary, we know that Nancy doesn't survive what has happened to her, so as of right now, I believe Bryn thinks that she is still alive. About Bryn's cow Petunia, it was really heartbreaking to hear that the reason that she bellows was because she was grieving. That is very sad, and obviously it is something that's understandable. I do feel like a lot of the people that are giving Bryn unsolicited advice about what she should do about Petunia's bellowing kind of treat their pets not like family members, and I feel like Bryn looks at her cows as partners in her business. She also says that she thinks sometimes they understand her a bit more than most, and so there's definitely a relationship there between her and her cows. And again, understandable that her cow Petunia is grieving. And like with anything, grief varies from person to person, so it would make sense that the amount of time that it would take for her cow to not get over, but feel more at peace with the loss of her calf would vary. I believe a year or so ago, there was a story on the news about an orca who lost her calf and carried the calf's carcass around for a while. It was not usual behavior for an orca to do that. So yeah, I can definitely see why it might be taking Petunia a bit longer than the vet told her it would, or told Bryn that it would, to get over the loss. But yeah, it makes me really sad that the reason that she is bellowing is because she lost her calf, and how cruel people are being about it, not knowing the situation behind it. And I definitely find the whole "you should muzzle her" bit a bit distasteful and cruel. So yeah, we are halfway through today's chapters, and I am going to dig into chapter 4 right now. I presume we are going to find out about Nancy's fate. And anyway, I will be back with you in a bit. So I just finished chapter 6. I think it was in the beginning of chapter 4 where we found out why it was strange for Nancy to have been taken to Augusta Medical. That's some pretty interesting information. But obviously in chapter 6, Bryn states that she didn't even think about why that statement would have been strange, and that's something that I immediately picked up on. So obviously she was in a state of distress and confusion, having just woken up from fainting and whatnot. But that information that she overheard at the hospital was interesting, regarding the fact that Nancy should have been taken to the other hospital per protocol. And then for the fire inspector to come out and ask specifically if Bryn heard anything about why the decision was made to take Nancy to Augusta Medical. So there's definitely something there. Obviously, Nancy was trying to tell Bryn something right before she was airlifted to the other hospital. I'm curious to know what she was trying to say. I mean, it would make sense that she has a contractor working on the place if she was planning to renovate it for her market. So I don't think it's too far off the bat to think that she might have said Paul the contractor. I presume that eventually Bryn will look into who the contractor was working for Nancy, but maybe not. I mean, you never know with how these things go, but I will be very surprised if Bryn doesn't look into who the contractor was that was working for Nancy. Some interesting information there about her cows and the lactation process, when she was telling Tilly that her other 2 cows aren't lactating right now. Yet she tells the fire inspector that the cream that she was going to give him for his coffee, which he ended up not having anyway because he had his coffee black, but she told him that the cream came from her cows, plural. But if only one of her cows is lactating, then the cream came from one cow. I don't know, little things like that I am zoning in on, and I'm not sure if it's just because I'm reading too much into it right now. But yeah, I'm definitely interested to know about the whole contractor thing. It's obviously very curious why the fire inspector is looking into why Nancy was taken to Augusta Medical instead of the other hospital. I mean, this wouldn't be a mystery if there wasn't something up with what happened to Nancy. So, yeah, I'm interested to learn more about the people in town and see how Bryn gets into investigating what happened, her investigation style, because obviously she hasn't done any of that yet. We're still just getting to know her and a few of the people in town and knowing about her business and her cows. And so, yeah, earlier in my previous clip, I had mentioned something about people not viewing animals as like parts of their family or more than just animals, and that was very clear when the Reverend called Bryn to kind of complain about Petunia and her bellowing, and I thought he was very crass about the whole thing. For a reverend, that's not a very reverend-like attitude, at least not in my thinking, especially because he wanted to use Petunia for his nativity. And so, yeah, I wasn't very impressed with the reverend at all, with his attitude about how he was unsympathetic with the fact that Petunia was grieving. And so, yeah, definitely not the type of sentiments or attitude I expect from a reverend character. But I haven't been really impressed with how the townspeople are reacting to the whole situation. I mean, it's one thing for Nancy to say something because she's kind of got a rapport with Bryn. They know each other better. They, have gotten together. They bonded. But for people in the town who she just met to be giving unsolicited advice and making rude comments about it without knowing her or the situation going on is rather upsetting. So anyway, those are my thoughts on these first 6 chapters. I will be back with you tomorrow for chapters 7 through 12. I'm looking forward to learning more about the people in town and, like I said, seeing Bryn start to investigate, because I presume that's what she's going to start doing shortly. And yeah, so I will be back with you tomorrow. I hope you're all having an amazing day, and I will talk to you later. Take care, and smile always. Bye.